Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspiring show coming right up with special guests, Terri Ann Russell. And she's here today to share with us her new book, From Death to Life, the incredible true story of Anthony Joseph. After the sudden and tragic loss of her son, Terri Ann Russell was on the brink and trying to make sense of it all. In her true account, she shares her deepest sorrows, voyage of self-discovery, and how her son reached out to her from the other side, forming a connection of love and triumph. Now, Terri Ann Russell is a healer, channel, past life regressionist, and medium, and she lives in Scottsdale, Arizona. She's a mother of 5 children, aged 30 to 10, and she channels her son's spirit and shares their story of courage, growth, and healing to everyone around the world. So let's welcome to the show, Terri Ann Russell.
Thank you for having me, Marianne.
What an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. I mean, it's so heartfelt, and my goodness, you've been through so much. Was it difficult for you to write?
Yes, and I didn't want to write it. I was I was hesitant, and I really pushed it off. About 4 months after Anthony passed, he started coming in, and he was very adamant about me having to write this book. And so through the process, it started very slow, but I found it to be very cathartic for me. I found it to be very healing.
Going through that process. Well, why don't you share a little bit of your story? We're not going to go through all of it because I know there's so much there. And of course, everyone wants to pick up from death to life. But Anthony's your son, right?
He is my son. He's my middle son. I have 4 children and a stepdaughter, and he was 27 years old when he suddenly passed from a medical condition. And so it was very heart wrenching to go through. It was just, I can't even put it into words sometimes for people to conceptualize it. It was like as if somebody ripped my heart out of my chest. Um, and because we had just seen him, we had been away for a week on vacation together. It really hit home. And about 3 days before, I was guided up to go see him again. And he said, "Why are you here again?" And I said, "I don't know. I just had the urge to come and see you." So, spirit works in mysterious ways. And I believe that that time that we had together was for us to connect deeper. And unbeknownst to me at the time, that would be the last time that we would see him in the physical.
That's so heart-wrenching. And I know you're also a very gifted energy healer, intuitive. How long have you been doing that work?
So I just really got into that work after my daughter was born. She's 11, and she was born very sick, and traditional medicine failed us over the years. So I turned to energy healing as a way to help heal her. And through that experience, she's now been 5 years hospital free with no blood transfusions, and her doctors are astounded. So I've been in the business probably professionally now for about 5, 6 years.
Doing that kind of work. And what type of energy work do you do?
So I was trained in many different modalities. I dove right into my training. Once my daughter started to be healed, and there was no other explanation as to why this child was suddenly healthy, I began to look deeper at to what this was and what it meant to have this ability and this gift. And I've always had this ability. I always felt like a power in my hands, and I was raised very strict Catholic, and so we have laying of the hands. So I understood what that meant to be a healer. Um, so going through that process, I just learned, Yusui Reiki, Karuna Reiki, Light Therian Reiki, Theta healing. I really dove into everything and anything that I can find that would help me further hone those skills.
And really be able to use that for your family, which I think that's so impressive. A lot of times people find themselves in the energy healing work because something like that happens.
Yes, it's very often even clients that come to me sometimes it's as a last resort. They've been sick for so long and traditional medicine has failed them, and they have no other place to go, so they're looking for answers. And through what I find, especially like past life regression and stuff, is that really through the past life regression that I do with clients, that these things are waiting to be healed. There's other life stuff that has caused a person in this life maybe to have some fears. So we go in and we look at that life, and there becomes a deeper understanding for the client. And through that experience of viewing this past life, it's healed.
It's something we can work on. So, why don't you share a little bit about your son and what he's like?
He's amazing. He was always very different from my other children. He was loved by everybody. He was so articulate as a child. He'd shake your hand. He'd say, "Nice to meet you. My name is Anthony." And he had this knowing within him. If somebody needed something, he knew what to do or say to comfort people. And at about 3 years old, he told me that he chose me to be his mom. And at that time, I was not spiritually open. So I sort of just laughed and shrugged it off. But he was very social. He had a huge group of friends. And in fact, when he passed, Fox News did a story about him because he lived in the little town of Flagstaff, Arizona, where he went to college. And he stayed there. So the community, he was very well known in the community. He was really a helper from a young age. And as I said, he was different from my other children in the fact that he just understood things. There was a knowing, like if you look deep within his eyes, there was something deeper there, a deeper understanding.
And so, when did he start connecting with you in spirit?
Right away, within hours, the officers had come to our house about 2 o'clock in the morning. We were awoken to a knock on the door, and they were explaining what happened. And he had gotten sick a couple of days before with a stomach bug. They thought it was a stomach bug diagnosis, and they sent him home from the urgent care. And when the paramedics arrived, he was still alive. So that was, yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning. And so he had passed about 10 o'clock in the evening. So 4 hours. I was, we were in the living room with the officer, and my husband was there, and they were explaining to us. And within that time, I heard him, "I'm okay, Mom." He was yelling, "I'm okay. I'm here. You don't need to worry." And I would be screaming because I didn't want to hear that. I knew the difference as being a medium, what was occurring, but my psyche couldn't understand that now this is my child, and he's trying to communicate with me. And I was in such a deep state of shock at that time and denial that I thought that if I didn't hear him, that it wouldn't be true.
I think any parent would feel that way about their kid, just it's just so heartbreaking to hear something like that.
Yeah, and I had had premonitions when my sons were little, of an officer coming to the door, and that actually played out the night. It was the exact same premonition that I would have in dreams when they were little boys. And I could never hear exactly what was being said, but I fell to the ground and I was in shock and screaming. And so during that time, being in that state of despair, I would all of a sudden feel this peace and this love come into my body. And so, just to paint a picture, I'd be screaming and yelling on the floor and in shock, and this peace would enter me, and I would stop and I would feel him and I would connect with him, and he told me it would be okay. So it was beautiful. It was heart wrenching, all in the same, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, just having that level of connection and going through the shock of everything that's happening. I'm sure it just was a horrible experience. And I know that in your book you talk about a time where you also experienced a time of great darkness as well.
Yes, early on, I was really almost overtaken to the point of taking my life because I was I talk about frequency a lot, and we're energetic beings, and our frequency gets to a certain level. I share it in the book. David Hawkins has a map of consciousness, he calls it. And grief, despair, sadness, those are all lower vibrational frequencies, whereas joy, peace, love, those are all higher vibrational frequencies. So when you're in the lower vibrational frequencies, dark energy, dark attachments can come in, and they spoke to me differently than my son or any other spirit that I had connected with before. It was very dark, and they told me that if I took my life, I could be with my son. And I would scream because I understood what was occurring. I had that knowledge to know that this was dark energy and it was not me having these thoughts. Even though I loved my son immensely, I knew that taking my own life was not the way. I knew that there was no guarantee that I could be with him if I took my own life. So I knew that it wasn't me, and I knew that I had to get help from my soul family to help me lift myself out of these lower vibrations.
Now, looking back, do you think that was kind of a time of almost training for you?
Yes, absolutely. It was, I say through all this pain came this beauty. I was able to write the book, and he wanted me to share the book to help so many other people. And it really, what has transpired over this, he's only been gone a year and a half now, from the physical. And I say gone from the physical because he is still here every day. To him, it's no different. But through this period of these last 18 months, 19 months, what has transpired has been mind blowing for me. So many things have changed and shifted, and I've gained this deeper understanding of the truth that we are all truly connected and we are here to help one another. And so through this book, it was always about sharing the words, my pain, so that I could help others understand that others who may not have that connection, that deep connection. So many mothers have reached out to me, um, asking me, is their child okay? Can they connect with their child? Are they able to have these abilities? And I explained to them that yes, we all have these abilities. We are all intuitive. I am nobody special. We are all able to connect with our loved ones.
That must be so reassuring for so many parents that are wanting to connect with their children that are on the other side.
Yes, and it's funny because I can tell you as a medium, almost all of my clients that have come to me have had some sort of um, meeting or connection, feeling that their loved one is there. They either feel them, hear them, see them, sense something, or something would just come to them that they know. So, further solidifying that we do all have this ability. We may not understand what that is at the time. And so a lot of it is me explaining, that you have this ability and how to hone in on it and use it.
So when did you return to your practice, your spiritual practice and energy practice?
I was back and forth for a while. I was guided probably about 8 weeks after he passed to go into the office, and I was nowhere near ready to work or do this work again, because my frequency was still so low. And I had gone into the office one day, and a woman came in and she wanted a mediumship session. And I said, I really can't. My son just passed. My frequency is really low. I really have a hard time. I'm struggling with that. And she said, well, can I tell you why I'm here? And I said, why are you here? And she said, I just lost my child, who was like 7 or 8, I think, at the time. And I said, okay, and I asked Anthony, should I see this woman? And he said, yes. So I brought her in and we connected. And she said she was just in Sedona visiting. She had no intention of doing this, but she was outside walking around in our complex, and she was drawn to our office. And the second that she walked in the door, she got this feeling that she needed to speak with me. So those things I share because I think it's important for people to know. You may not understand why you're being directed one way or the other, but there is always a deeper knowing that, there's something there that you need to find out or you need to seek. So I went back and forth a few times. I worked for a while, then I stopped. My mediumship sessions are still very difficult for me. One of the most um, hard things about that is connecting with the client that has such intense grief. And then I feel their grief and I have my grief alone. So that those sessions are very daunting for my physical being to be able to do. So I've held back on my mediumship sessions a little, but my energy healing has expanded. The growth, my spiritual hypnosis sessions with the past life regression have expanded, and those all seem to be easier for me to do, if that makes sense.
I can understand that. I mean, just connecting to somebody's energy like that, I mean, you're really feeling everything they're feeling.
Yeah, I'm a very intuitive being, so I'm very empathic and I'm clairsentient, so I feel a lot in my body. So I feel all of their pain and suffering.
So, did you and Anthony have a soul contract about this?
We did, as I've gone through this past 18 months, I've learned deeper the meaning of soul contracts, and we all have soul contracts before we come here. They're extensive plans that we make with our group before we decide to come in and incarnate on Earth. And so I've been able to piece together as to why at this time he chose to leave, why I was to write this book and write other books, and why the mission that we have, each of us alone and then together in our purpose here. So yeah, soul contract was very strong for us. It was very detailed, and I was able to find out and bring a lot of that information through, which gave me that deeper understanding of knowing why I'm here, what I'm here to do while I'm on Earth.
And I understand that Anthony says that the soul contract was your idea.
Yes.
you're, you're probably going,
That makes it a little harder sometimes.
I bet. Going, how did I agree to this?
And that's what I said. I was like, I never would have agreed to something like this. I'd have to be crazy to agree to something like this. Um, but I'm able to laugh about it now, because I've been able to see, yes, it was my idea to do this, but it was his part of his contract as well. And so we both had our journey when we agreed to do this, and for him to come as my son and leave. But it would have been accomplished. My coworker said it would have never been accomplished any other way. This was meant to happen. It was meant to be like this. And the growth and the knowledge that I've received in these last 18 months have just been amazing.
So, how is Anthony working with you from the other side with the work that you do?
Anthony is everywhere in every session that I'm in. There's never a moment, especially in my sessions, he's very protective of my energy. Um, Sometimes people will come to you that you may not necessarily need to work with. So, he's taught me a lot of discernment about which clients to take on and which clients to refer out to other people. But he's in every session. He's always sharing, guiding, protecting. One of our deepest connections we have is through healing that I do with people, because he's able to come into my body and he's taught me how to heal my own body, which then in turn I'm able to, work with others on a deeper level, so to help heal them.
He really sounds like an old soul.
Yes, he's a very, very old soul. He was ready. It was like he hit the ground and he was running, from what he's told me. Once he was over the shock and the surprise of leaving this realm and going into the next realm, he really hit the ground running. He was ready to go.
So, what are some things that you've learned from Anthony during this time? Because I know he's protecting you and always there with you, but what other information have you gained from that connection with him?
It's just been truly mind blowing, the amount of information that I've been able to, as I've gone through my healing. Um, and my dreams have deepened. My dreams have become more in depth, and they've become more colorized and more visual. And so I get these in-depth messages through my dreams, and then also through my galactic transmissions. Anthony has ascended very quickly through the levels of the spirit world. So he is very high where he is in that high spiritual realm. So his energy has sort of, what he taught me in the beginning was that he sort of, when he would tell me, when you flow, I flow, and when you grow, I grow. So when he would shift and change and go through this process, it was like I was on in my dimensional realm and he was in his dimensional realm. And as he shifted and grew, I shifted and grew, and then I would shift and grow and he would shift and grow. So it was this interconnection that I don't think I had the deeper understanding of what that meant before he left. But having this connection with a child in this high dimensional realm, it's like I'm partly here and partly there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just this real deep connection you both have in your own spiritual realms. It's interesting. I know in your book you talk about healing grief, and there's a passage here that I thought was really interesting. Grief is not something you have to get over. And that you talk about how that's something you heard in one of your meditations. How is healing grief for you now? What does that look like? And are you helping other people heal their grief?
Yes. Um, for me, I say that everybody's grief journey is individual to them, and it's never the same for two people. We would go through grieving very differently. But for me, what has been my go to has been energy healing on myself, raising my frequency, helping myself to lift some of that heaviness out of my body. I say, the heart is what holds all of that pain and suffering, guilt, remorse, fear, fear for your other children. Will your other children leave? So we go through this, all these stages of grief. And for me, energy healing and writing have been the two most important things for me to help heal my grief. I found through writing, and I'm not a writer by any means. This was, divinely guided by him. He went to college for communications and journalism. I went to college for human services. So writing this book has been a experience for me. But then through writing, I truly have found my pathway, if that makes sense.
Are you having a lot of people reach out to you and saying how your book is really helping them heal from their own grief?
Yes, yes. I've joined groups like Helping Parents Heal, and my book is on their website now. He has really helped me find Lisa Hagen, who published the book. He directed me to her. And I said, you're crazy. I can't write a book. I've never written a book. I don't know the first thing about any of this. How am I going to do this? And when I learned to surrender to what he was telling me, it was like those chains were lifted from me, because I was able to then gain this clearer understanding that there is this divine contract that we have in this world. And as long as he is guiding and directing me, and I listen to that inner guidance of myself, my higher self as well, and him, that everything will be okay. So yeah, we've reached a lot of people with this book, and they've reached out to me and told me how it was amazing, that I wrote this book so early, and that could I help them? Was there ways that I could help them with energy healing to help alleviate some of that heaviness or pain they were feeling?
I'm sure Anthony has helped bring people to you as well. Are you like collaborating with anybody due to, him bringing in all these great folks?
Yes, he actually brought me a few of my students, my mentor as well. So he's brought me a few of my students. And one student in particular started reading the book, and she has this amazing connection with Anthony. And he said to her, do you think any of this was just a coincidence that I brought you to my mom? So we're going to be
Oh
doing some
boy.
work together in the future. And he told me we were taking our show on the road. So, we have sold our business. We are in the process now of going on the road. I'm going to be um, doing grid work, which is rewiring of the grid of the earth through energy healing. And I'm going to be traveling and promoting this book. So our life has shifted and changed dramatically. And this next book, Life After Death, talks about all of these galactic transmissions. So really amazing, amazing stuff coming through for the future.
That sounds like another good book. And I'm sure people are waiting to get a hold of that as well. Because, I mean, this book I felt was, an honest, heartfelt read, but it offers so much information for people who may be struggling with the loss of a child or a loved one and how they can kind of look at things maybe a little bit differently.
Yeah, that was his message from the beginning. He wanted it to be able to help people heal. He always was a writer. I have his journal when he passed, and he talks about using his voice to help people heal. And that was early, early on. I found that passage and I was like, wow. And so through me, he's able to write the book of his dreams. And he talks about this book being his baby and the next book being my baby. So this book really was for him to get his message out there that we are all connected, we are all one. There is healing available for you if you choose to go with it.
Have you gotten any real physical signs that Anthony is there with you? Because I know, when we connect with people in spirit, we hear them, but sometimes people feel like they get signs as well.
Oh yeah, many other people have actually gotten signs from him as well. So it's not just me, but he's connected with family. I have a photo of him where he is. There's a man in the picture where my family was gathering for New Year's Eve, the first year that he passed. Um, the bead story is in the book, and it talks about uh, my coworker was getting some of his ashes made into these beautiful beads for me, and I had wanted two and I wanted them to be green. And he connected with the man that was making them and he kept breaking all the beads. And the man that made them, Brian, is an expert. And he said, this had never been happened. After he made me the beads, he shared the story and he said that every bead he made would shatter. And so finally he said to Anthony, look, I've got to have these to your mother by Christmas. What do you need me to do? And so he said, make her three beads, he heard. So he made me three beads and I had wanted them green, but they kept coming out black. So the night before he was to give them to me, he set them out and he made them black and he put them in the thing that makes them hard. And the next day he came out to get the black beads and the beads turned green. So he was in shock because that can't occur according to him ever either. So we laugh about it now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite a story there. You don't hear that happening too much, but it's nice to get those confirmations, that they're on the other side. Even though you hear them and you connect with them, it's still nice to get those physical confirmations.
Yeah, he leaves me dimes. We've been traveling now for a month or so. So he leaves me dimes for every, place that we pull into. And so dimes are his thing. My grandmother will leave me pennies once in a while, but dimes are his thing. So I think it's beautiful for people to see that as well. Feathers, they can, they use feathers, they use coins, they work with electronics a lot. They can, mess with your TV, your phone, your lights. I just think it's amazing how much they learn when they pass. What he showed me is that they can learn to work with that energy and see what works for them the best to communicate.
That's just so impressive. My goodness. Well, Terri Ann, I know we could talk for hours. I mean, I found your story just so compelling, so heartfelt. Where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your book, From Death to Life?
We could find From Death to Life on Amazon, The Incredible True Story of Anthony Joseph. You can connect with me at www.sassysoulhealing.com. You can follow our journey now. It is at www healingandwheeling.com. And so that is us taking our show on the road.
Well, Terri Ann, thank you so much for taking the time to be on a show with us here today.
Thank you so much, Marianne. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Terri Ann. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, From Death to Life, The Incredible True Story of Anthony Joseph. Again, if you'd like to connect with Terri Ann, you can at SedonaSoulSisters.com for more information. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.